Okay, everyone, so this is part two of my Fruit Festival Odyssey, my Fruit Festival journey. And where I left off in the last video, I got to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, or I got to the bus. So I remember the morning waking up this hostel, I think it was called the Jazz Hostel, and it was quite near where the bus was picking us all up. I don't know if that's still in New York right now. Is it called the Jazz Hostel? I think it was called the Jazz Hostel. So a bunch of people from the forum, because all the people that were coming from abroad, it was a big international festival. Woodstock is still an international festival, but I believe back then it was even more international. A lot of people came from Canada, but a lot of people were coming from Europe, Israel, the UK, obviously, Australia. Lots of people were coming from quite far. So Japan, it was South America, super international festival at the time. That was the power of YouTube and everything, and all the people on YouTube that were promoting it. And it was a very enthusiastic time for that movement. A lot of people were from the 30 bananas a day style, the Durian Rider, the Freely style. You know, very high carb, very high calorie, trying to be as fit as possible, going to bed early, that kind of vibe. Um, and very 100% raw was the ethic. So there was a lot of that. That was a lot of what the enthusiasm was, and it was tremendous at the time. And it was really important for me being caught up in that. Um, so we're in the hostel, wake up, go downstairs or whatever. Uh, and as I say, we're there with a bunch of people who are going to the festival. I remember my friend Yella, the first time I met him, who's from the Netherlands, and he was like eating bananas. He was trying to have all these bananas, as a lot of people were doing at the time. And I think I had a little bit of fruit left over from the night before. I'd got some grapes and some juice or something. And then we all walked to try and find the bus. I remember going to a Jamba Juice, and Yella had a big carton. He's always like a super prepared guy. I was the opposite. And he got his big jar filled up with orange juice. So he'd had all these bananas. He was going to have this massive orange juice. And he was really ready to carb up that day. And I think I shared the bus seat with him. I sat beside him on the bus on the way up to he was speaking all the time. He talks. I don't know if he still does. He used to talk a lot. Great guy. Not seen him in a while. Not seen him in too long. But wonderful person. And I remember being in the bus. I remember Tony Wright came in the bus. I think Robert Lockhart might have got in the bus. I just remember seeing people from like food and sport videos, and oh, they were at a Doug Graham retreat. This is how deep I was in all this. I was like, oh, they were at that retreat that I watched a video of online. They were at Woodstock last year because I saw they were in one of the videos from last year because I'd been watching all the stuff. So these people were all like slightly famous to me. Like, these are the cool people. I look back and it's like people that were ended up being friends of mine, George and Danielle and even Tony Wright, Robert Lockhart, people like that. But these were all like, wow, I've seen them before, in videos and maybe doing interviews or having their own channel. A lot of people had YouTube channels back in the day. So it was exciting. I remember actually Guillermo was on the bus, Mexican guy who I've interviewed before. Never really got to know Guillermo, but he was at the Fruit Festival a lot, and I did interview him. But I remember the bus stopped off, and there was a farm stand on the way up. There's some great places, some great, little. There's great places up in that part of the world at that time of year in upstate New York for like fruit and especially things like peaches and nectarines and strawberries and tomatoes, great tomatoes and stuff. And he was filming, and I kind of tried to talk to him, and he was like, he kind of dismissed me a little bit. So I never really got to know the guy. That I could have left him alone after that. But he was busy doing his filming, and I was kind of getting in the way. But I felt like, oh man, that's not the spirit. But anyway, that was the only negative thing. There was also a girl I met on the bus. Her name was Matea. I remember speaking to her on the bus as well. She became friends, and I saw her a number of times at the festival over a couple of years. Um, and and yeah, but I guess I had a little feeling like on the bus, like, okay, it's not all maybe enlightened beings that are going this thing, right? It's maybe not all that. It's people, and people with their own concerns and problems and whatever else. And start the bus eventually starts to pull up to Camp Walden, and it starts to pull up, and I see Harley Johnston, Durian Rider, Doug Graham, and I think Grant Campbell. They're all standing in a circle talking to each other. I think it was just them, and everyone in the bus kind of slightly gasped a little bit, audibly, like, oh my god, it's them, these saviors of the world, like these great heroes, these people that are changing the world with this diet and this lifestyle. And it was just amazing at that time. Like, there was such a reverence for it. There was such a respect. There was such a admiration for a lot of these people, which may have to some degree died down a little bit over the years. But there was such a respect and such a reverence. Um, and all got out. I ended up sharing a room with a bunch of people from the UK. Not sure why I ended up in that room. It was a mixed room, and that's actually, I wouldn't really recommend that, but I on purpose took a mixed room. I don't know why. Mixed female and male. It's actually better to have a male room or a female room, but I had a mixed room. Probably thinking maybe I'll meet a girl in the room. Probably that was the thing. Um, and I think I didn't have a sleeping bag, and I think I was cold a lot of the time that week, unfortunately. Um, but the first night, I was talking to people, and we're in, and it's just like, it's not ready. Everyone's showing up, but it's not quite ready. It's just like things are being put out and things are being put together, and it's, and people are hanging out. And I start talking to this guy, and he ends up being one of my best friends in this whole lifestyle for many years. A guy called Connor McMillan, and I'll to be honest, I don't speak to him that much anymore. I guess we've grown apart a little bit, but for many years, I absolutely, I'd still do anything for the guy, but I felt very close to him, even though I didn't really live near him. And I was Scottish. He was from a Scottish kind of background, or he had ancestry, Scotland and Ireland and all that. So we had a little bit of a connection there, and I just thought this guy is the best. I thought he was like the bee's knees. He was just such a great guy. He was so funny, easy to talk to. He improved every conversation he was in. He brought out the best of people when he was speaking to them. He made people feel good. He was just a great communicator, and a great kind of extrovert, I suppose, in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but he is extrovert, but just a good people person. Um, but he also had a similar journey to me, and he was about the same level of experience, and he just recently got into this, and I found out more why, and he'd had quite a challenging time in his life, and he'd found all this stuff, this raw vegan stuff, and he'd ended up at this event, and I just tried to spend as much time with this guy as possible. Honestly, it was, and that was, to me, it's what Woodstock has always been about, and these events. It's just been, Tim Van Orden used to say, it's for him, it's not about it being a fruit festival, it's an awesome people festival or something like that. He goes for the people, he doesn't go for the food. I I still go for the food. I think the food's great. Like, I love the Woodstock is amazing for the food. Um, Believe me, but regardless of what John Kohler says, but I was watching, looking. But he's right. I just met so many great people there, so many fantastic people. Um, I felt like I left with like 50 new friends, after. And I'm not an extrovert. And it's especially then, I was very introverted. I wasn't good at starting conversations. I would really struggle. I would try, but I wasn't very good. And I was just able to talk to people because we had this great thing in common. We'd had similar experiences. And at that week, I was just felt free to be me, free to be more me. And I was supported by people, and they were encouraging, and they wanted you to do better and feel better, and they were supporting that. And that's always been one of the feelings around these events as well, which is a wonderful thing. You know, everyone genuinely wants everyone else to do well and to be healthy and to have energy, and everyone's sharing ideas and being inspired by each other. And it was a great set of people, that kind of generation. So there's so many people. I can think of people now that are medical doctors, chiropractors that were there. That many people went on to be health coaches online, life coaches. Connor himself did health coaching, but he also did he does therapy. He became a therapist as well, and and I got to meet Durian Rider, who was one of my main heroes, and Tim Van Orden wasn't meant to be there, but Tim Van Orden came to the festival as well, and I was like, oh my god, Tim's here, so I got to meet Tim. Didn't really get to meet Doug that much, and didn't really speak to a lot of the women, um, at the time. Christina, didn't really speak to her. There was a film going on, and a lot of these people were being filmed as well. Robert Lockhart I met, and that was a very important thing for me because I guess I did want to connect with one of these people that had been doing this for a long time. I remember going to his first lecture because everyone was talking about, I thought everyone was on the same boat, like high calories, high carb, high, like, as much sugar as possible, whatever. I kind of thought everyone was doing the same thing. And then Robert Lockhart's first lecture was about caloric restriction. And I thought, well, I might as well go and see this guy. He starts the lecture, he gets up on his hands, and he starts walking about in handstands. I'd actually seen him doing it online, I think, but it was pretty cool seeing him do it in front of the audience in the big hall. I think it was the first lecture I went to. And I feel so emotional about all this stuff. It was when my life really started to change in a big way. All of this was like a total me jumping into the chaos, into the chaos of change, into the mystery of this whole new adventure. Me responding to the call to adventure, the call to adventure, responding to it, and finding my way, and all of a sudden, from being a guy, working a typical kind of office job, not really knowing what I was doing with my life, had kind of failed at the things I was really wanting to do, which was music. I kind of failed at it. I'd had this band that kind of failed, and it was really serious for a number of years, and that failed. Had went back to do a law degree, and then failed to become a lawyer. Failed to even do that thing, which was meant to be the more conventional route or whatever. And was trying to figure out what was going on. And I wasn't particularly motivated with career and money and all that. I was looking to develop as a person. I didn't have my eyes on the practical things, I suppose. And I ended up, and here I was from this guy that was sitting in the office, cubicle a couple of days before. Now I'm halfway around the world sitting on a bench in front of this guy in his 70s doing handstands who's been on a raw food diet for close to 30 years. I'm in upstate New York in this incredible place. I've got people all around the world, you know, whereas back home it's all really, in the office, really cynical people. They don't care about their health. A lot of them are overweight. Everything I'm doing, they think is weird. And I'm just so grateful for it, for that experience. And he was speaking about caloric restriction, and I don't I don't like it. I didn't really ever like his approach to that. But it made me realize people do this all different ways, kinda. Not hugely different, but people are kind of doing it in different ways. Everyone was a fruit lover. I remember the first night before that morning, I was at the opening ceremony. And the opening ceremony was exciting. I remember there's a girl from Australia called Robin. I think I might have been sitting beside her. The opening ceremony was electric. And I remember Doug Graham saying, we'll need a bigger place next year. We're going to have double the people, or Mike Arnstein saying that or something. And I'm just like, yeah, this is taking over the world. The world is going to change because of this. This is amazing. This is electric. The energy is incredible. These pioneers, amazing person, amazing person, amazing person, this person, that person, this, bring them up. Everyone's applauding. And the last person to come up is Doug Graham. And everyone's on their feet. Yes. And all the other speakers are, yes, Doug Graham. And I won't go too much into this story, but the speech he gave at that moment did not quite take it to the next level the way it could have. But anyway, everyone was still in a high. And the next day and that morning, I don't know if I went to a class that morning. I probably tried to go to a class. There's always exercise classes in the morning at Woodstock. I'll tell you what I might have went to, thinking about it. I might have tried to go to the meditation, but that was like an hour long. It was just an hour long meditation. Yulia just sat and we all did meditation. I couldn't quite last an hour. And I didn't really like meditating with other people. I went to a walk and talk with Dan McDonald, where you just went for a walk. And I remember trying to speak to Dan. I actually insulted Dan on the first day. I was in the queue with him, turned around, someone was like, "Oh my God, Dan the man." I didn't ever never really watched his videos that much. I turned around and he's like towering above me. He's quite a tall guy and broad and tall. And I said to him, "You're not as skinny as you look online," or something like that. "You're not as skinny as everyone says you are," or something. Totally insulted him. And he just looked at me strangely and didn't want to speak to me. And then I tried to speak to him in his walk and talk, and he kind of just looked at me weirdly. He just, I think he was just a bit freaked out or something. Um, but he took us into the woods, and we all sat in a kind of circle, and Dan just started to emanate this beautiful speech, and that was his kind of gift. And it was an amazing moment. He's just like, this is amazing. Once again, a couple of days ago, I'm in an office in Glasgow, surrounded by cynicism and negativity and ill health. And now I'm sitting in the woods with these amazing people who are all really hyped and looking to improve their life and get healthier. And they're all amazing stories and they're from all around the world. And this guy is like coming out with wisdom and knowledge. And we're all going, wow, he's right. Like he was saying things. I remember him talking about waking up in the morning, you've got this light inside you that gets you up. And I remember just thinking, yeah, that's like that. He's right, And I went to see Doug Graham's classes. I remember the first lecture with Doug was packed. Lots of people there. And he did a lecture every day. I went to his fitness class one time, or maybe a couple of times. But I wasn't very fit at the time. I tried to do the yoga, kind of struggled with it. Really, really struggled with the yoga. Really wasn't very fit at all. Didn't go on. I might have. Didn't go on the cycling. Yeah, I was thinking. I cycled with Durian Rider probably the next year after that, but I don't think I cycled that time. And I went for a walk. I never went for a run either. Went for a hike with the group doing that. So I'm just remembering various things that happened, and but the whole thing, I tried to see so much. I really tried to see a lot, and I met a lot of people just through it. And then at night we were around the campfire and just really jumping up and down and singing and bashing the drums and all that, and just having fun. The one thing I'd say that first time, food was not abundant. They had a lot of durian, and it was probably like it was the second time I'd ever had durian, but I wasn't that keen on it. But it had loads of durian, and they had it out all the time because it's kind of like what they had, and they had lots of lychees, and I didn't really like them either. But there wasn't a great deal of fruit apart from that in the first year. And there was a little restaurant called Le Fruit. I remember we booked in to go to Le Fruit, and you paid a bit more for it, and then you realised that they didn't serve a lot of food at Le Fruit, so you were desperate for more food. Let me pause this for a second. So it was not the best at the time for the food. They've changed it radically. They've really improved it. Um, and I'm just trying to think of my whole experience of it and who was there because I can get confused with the different years. Um, and yeah, we would go down, we'd go into the water quite a lot, and I got to play in the talent show. So I ended up playing in the talent show and got really good reception. And I remember people speaking to me about it, and someone was saying like, "Oh, you're the best thing that night," and it was really nice. And it was from someone that had been felt like I'd tried music or whatever, and it kind of didn't work out, failed at it, and I thought, well, I guess it's not right for me, and that kind of got me back into playing again. I think a little bit was that situation, that playing on the stage there. Um, so yeah, there was so much. There was so much that week. And it's funny because I think I actually left early. I didn't even stay the whole event. I left the night before or the day before, which was really unfortunate. I should have stayed to the end. I don't know why I did it the way I did. I maybe didn't have a lot of holidays left to take the whole time off. I left the day early, and I remember at that time, I guess Facebook wasn't as much a thing. You would kind of take people's emails, take people's details, take their phone number and all that, and incredible time. Just like I was so open to it. I was so open to it. I wasn't cynical. I wasn't looking for what's wrong with this. I wasn't looking for, oh, these people aren't perfect. This isn't. They're all bad. I was open to the experience. I'm really glad I was, and I get emotional thinking about it. I get emotional whenever I go back to that place. It's transformed me over the years. Um, Being around people like that, and partly it's because they're American, maybe partly it's because the diet, and partly because people that go to things like this tend to be great people. And that's not just fruitarian events, but people who actually are going to spend money on themselves to improve themselves tend to be more responsible people, things like that. Um, More intentional people, more developed people. I don't want to be weird about that, but that's what it feels like. And I left that place with a feeling of like, I didn't leave feeling like, oh my God, I'm losing. I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to have to go home. It's terrible. I'm going to miss all these people. I was excited to leave. I was excited to go home. I thought, I can help share this message with more people back home. That's what I felt. I'm going to go and find people back home that are doing this. I'm going to learn more from them. So I came home with that intention. I tried to find people and put a meetup group together. And it kind of turned out that there wasn't really a lot of other people doing this here, or I couldn't find them, or I didn't find them. Gradually, I started to find some of them through putting on this meetup group. And over the years, like lots of different people have come to that meetup group and gone, and many of them are still out there that are kind of doing this that I don't see that much, sadly. But that was a whole other story, right? doing the meetup group. But came home and I was just like, I'm going to stick to 100% raw because I was so inspired by it. I so believed in the message. Just, I wasn't trying to be like a leader in this movement. I was just trying to be a part of it. I was happy to be a part of it. And I thought, I'm going to commit to this 100% for a year. And I'm going to go back to Woodstock and I'm going to be 100% for a whole year. And I thought everyone was doing that. Honestly, I thought everyone was like, this is it. We're going for it. So I was carried on this wave of everyone else doing it, you know, and amazing. So the next part of the story, when I was at Woodstock, Connor goes, I'm going to go to Thailand. Do you want to come? Now, I was working full time, like in an office, you know, I couldn't just take up and leave. I had no idea about making money and all that. Didn't have any money, didn't have any business, didn't do anything online. Obviously, didn't have a YouTube channel or what have you. But I came home, a whole bunch of people started to create YouTube channels, started to do things. A lot of them went on to be really successful with it. And my friend Connor was like, he'd seen the vision. He's like, I'm going to be out in Thailand. I'm going to have, you know, do YouTube, do something online, and I'm going to make this life for myself. And he said he was going to go to Thailand. I said, yeah, I'd go with him. Now, he actually went and traveled for months and stuff, which was probably amazing. But I decided to, I went for a couple of weeks. That's all I could really take off because I was working in an office. So I was doing that. And that was in January or something, and I went to Thailand. But I'd made up this decision in my mind. I heard this thing, move towards your excitement, go towards your excitement. I used to see that, you know, what's your highest excitement? And I thought, this is the best thing in my life. Whatever this is, this movement, this Rotarian thing, these people, these events, this is the best thing in my life. And I've got to follow this. You know, so I'll make a part 3. This is part 2. And part 3, we'll go into Thailand and going forward from there.